Welcome to the new episode of Ground Pass. No Nick today. I am joined by the fifth Grand Slam. Did I get that right, Craig?
Well, listen, I like to have fun and I like to play around a little bit. And, you know, at Indian Wells, particularly a year or two ago, when everyone was like, wow, are they really going to make a fifth Grand Slam? Is it the fifth Grand Slam? I was like, well, no, I'm the fifth Grand Slam. Because I thought it was, I like to kind of take the piss, have some fun. And I just started referring to myself as the fifth. Yeah, you got that right. The Taste of Tennis, the fifth Grand Slam.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, for our audience who probably doesn't know, we sort of cater to a more casual fan who is maybe not in the nitty gritty of all the sort of insides of tennis. Who is Craig Shapiro?
Oh, listen, first and foremost, I grew up in tennis, buzzing around the Tennis Hall of Fame in Newport, Rhode Island. When I was a little kid, I had a dad who loved tennis. He learned it himself, and he ran a trip from where we're from in Rhode Island to the U.S. Open for years and years and years. And the Masters, the end of the year round robin of the men and at that time the women were in Madison Square Garden. We would go up there for that. I am a documentary filmmaker, a TV producer by trade that has somehow, segued into a podcast host of the Craig Shapiro Tennis Podcast is my podcast. I started pretending that I had a tennis academy during COVID. And since then I've had people actually come to what I think are very cool curated trips that we call the Academy. We just finished one in Rome.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I'm a contributor to The Second Serve. I was formerly a contributor to Racket Magazine. I've done a lot of work at different times with the Tennis Channel, and that's it, man. I'm a man about tennis, and I just got finished at the French Open. So it's nice to see you, Anastasia. We met at Indian Wells in person, and then I saw you again in Miami the following week. So very nice to be on your show. Thanks for having me. I'm sorry Nick's not here. I would have liked to have met him.
I know. Next time we'll probably have to do this again and you'll meet Nick. But so we met during the Sunshine Double, but you just said you just wrapped up Roland Garros, and that's why I have you on. Nick and I were not able to be there. We will be one day, but I would love to get your insight on the tournament, what the grounds are like, tickets, the vibes for our audience. So they can hopefully one day plan a trip to Roland Garros, either on a budget or, without one, as they say. So how long have you been at Roland Garros this year?
No, I got into town the Tuesday before the tournament began, and I was there, generally speaking, through qualies, through Rafa's match. And then after Rafa's match, I think I was there for another day or two. I don't even remember because Rafa's, I wrote about it. I actually write a newsletter. The newsletter I wrote about this past week was I explained that ever since the Brady Bunch went to Hawaii, I don't know if you're too young to know this, but I believe in curses. And I think that the tournament was cursed by Rafa not saying goodbye, or Rafa's last match. So ever since that match ended, it's been cold and rainy and crazy, shocking weather. And my memory is fleeting ever since then. But to answer your question, I was there the first week.
Yeah, it's like Roland Garros is crying, saying goodbye to Rafa. It's what it seemed like.
Oh, Roland Garros is it was I was more like a nuclear winter, or what do they call it in Game of Thrones? There's the long winter.
The long winter, yeah.
Yeah, it felt like the long winter. People really lost their minds. I don't know if you've ever. I guess you haven't, but if anyone's ever experienced being at a tennis tournament with bad weather for days and days, it is tough. People really go into a funk. So
Yeah.
this tournament got really kneecapped by that.
Yeah. Well, hopefully for the second week, the sun will come out. But so you said you've been there through qualifying. So the only Grand Slam I've experienced is the US Open, and qualifying week, which has become fan week at the US Open, is one of my favorite times. First of all, because it's free. What's the French Open qualifying week like?
It's a dream. The weather actually was great. The ticket to go to qualies is, I should tell you, full disclosure, I'm credentialed media. I'm remarkably spoiled at these tournaments, and I'm very aware of that. But I'm one of these people that I take a lot of pride in, like turning a pork shoulder into like a delicious piece of, I'm never happy when, I have to buy the $180 tomahawk steak. So,
Yeah.
I feel like the best thing you could ever do is go to these qualies. I think it was 25 euros, and the tournament inside the tournament is awesome. The huge amount of French players to be in Paris and to be on these courts. Langlon was open, and there was a huge amount of French players playing on Langlon in qualies, and that's a special thing to see.
Yeah.
Quentin Hallis playing Diego Schwartzman in qualies. Anyone could walk into Langlon for that. And the other part of that is there are all the top players, everyone in the draw is practicing.
Yeah.
And they make Chatrier open to the practices. So you can really have a awesome experience. The players are moving around the tournament like fairly untethered, pretty loosey-goosey. The amount of people on the grounds is like, it feels like 1/10, and it's lovely.
Yeah, I was following you.
Highly recommend.
Yeah, I was following you on social media, and I'm going to link all of your newsletter, the podcast, and your Instagram account,
Totally.
Because it was so great following you. I loved the day you went to the line going into qualies, and then you showed the band playing. It just seemed like such a fun, and sun was shining, and I definitely had FOMO. I was like, oh, to be in Paris this week would have been great.
Well, Anastasia, I'll tell you, I mean, the goodbyes to Schwartzman and the goodbye to Dominic Thiem in Langlon were like really what I'll carry away with me from this year, way more so than anything else we saw.
Yeah.
Yes, because certainly because of what happened regarding the weather, unfortunate draw that Rafa got, I guess. Although I've got a lot of opinions about that, but Thiem and Schwartzman saying goodbye to a full Langlon with $25 euro paying real fans was like one of the illest, coolest, memorable things ever. And I was like really moved by that.
Yeah. Yeah. I always encourage, at least for the US Open, I encourage people to go to Fan Week because, when they open up Ash and you get to see a top player practicing from this far away, it's an unreal experience because, of course, once the tournaments start, ticket prices go up, and you need a ticket for that.
Well, to get down into that seat at the US Open is $1,700.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. So, minimum. That's the low price. And then at the French, to get down into that seat, you essentially during the tournament, you essentially have to. It's confusing, but you have to spend big money to be there, and that's not an option for me nor for most people.
Yeah. So getting into sort of the tournament and ticket prices, what is it like? Our podcast is called Ground Pass because we're proponents of, especially the first week when the outside courts are so packed with a lot of players playing. We're proponents of the Ground Pass. What is it? What is the ticket situation like at the French?
Tickets are non-existent. It's like a very closed door operation. The tickets, I don't even have a great feel for how it works, but I I think that the way Wimbledon has what they call debentures, where you have to buy the whole you buy your seats for every session,
Mm,
and and tickets that go out to the federation members. So if you're like a member of the USTA, you get first dibs. These tickets are gone. The people
wow.
that I know that yes, the people that I know that are ticket holders are either insiders, and the people that did it by the book, like literally, are so crazy that at 2 o'clock in the morning, 6 months ago, they were hammering that button on the they were hammering the button on their browser, and when they got in, they had opportunities to buy whatever they could. And generally speaking, all the tickets in the lower bowl of Chatrier come with some kind of hospitality.
Oh,
So
okay. Okay.
yeah, but that's still, it's $600, right? So, but that's probably the best deal you can get. I don't even know, and then to me, there's not really a bad seat in the house there. The seats are way the two stadiums, Langlon and Chatrier, are like way smaller than Ash. Upstairs in Ash is just out of control high.
You might as
That
well
that
watch it on TV.
that Lang, I won't go up there. I won't go up there even to say hi to friends. I've retired from going up there. I won't even go up
Yeah.
there. No, it's buck wild up there.
It's a different
It's
world.
no, it's gross. But so no, I won't go up there. But the Langlong is a dream.
Mm.
Langlong is a dream, and if you can get tickets inside Langlong that first week, chances are you're gonna see Richard Gasquet or Corentin Moutet or Quentin Hallis or Arthur Cazot or Arthur Fees, and then the last thing that's important is that the ground pass, I think, is around 100. I don't know how people can score those. I think you can get them off of you can get them from scalpers. They're straight up, just they'll bounce you the digital ticket.
Wow.
It's
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
€100. If you get off when you get off of the metro at Michel Ange Auteuil or Michel Ange Molitor, the scalpers are there. You got to be a little loose to do that. Um, have some euros in your pocket, but that day pass is money in the bank because you can get into Simone Mathieu, the court that is essentially like inside of a greenhouse. It's amazing. It's
Oh,
like
wow.
that is yeah, that court is the dream. Simone Mathieu is a dream. Court 14 is a dream. 13 is cool. I personally love court 7. Um, it's just that if you get that bad weather, there is nowhere to hide out
There's
there.
no,
Like
yeah.
there's no. There's nowhere to hide.
Wow.
So the people are nuts. They just sit in the stands with their umbrellas and they chill.
And they wait.
Uh, yep. Some young women who are big supporters of mine. They spend their money on attending big pro tennis tournaments, and they did that. They bought $600 seats in Chatrier for Monday, and guess what? They got Rafa Zverev
Oh,
in the second row. In the
yeah.
second row. In the
Wow.
second row.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
So
pretty cool.
so well, it's amazing. I mean, they hit it right.
Yeah. I mean, so it seems I know some people who went to Roland Garros this year and, did kind of what you said in terms of getting ground passes, because if they weren't on their computer when the tickets first went out, at 2 a.m. in the morning trying to score tickets, and they had to scramble to get ground passes, but then they were rained out all 4 days that they were in Paris.
No, they weren't rained out. They needed to just stay late.
Yeah,
Those
that
those those night sessions became, if you needed a blanket, you needed a winter coat, but
A hat.
those night sessions became the greatest things ever.
Yeah.
People need to be nimble. I don't have a lot of sympathy because, like, to me, when the rain comes, go, you just got to time it out because when
Right.
the rain stops, it's going to go crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And two nights ago, it was the greatest night session there ever was. The
Right.
2 nights ago, yeah. So if you were there and you had a day pass, you would have seen tennis till I think at 11 p.m. there were like 13 matches that were interesting going on.
Yeah, and watching from TV, it's so nice to see. I mean, I'm used to it with the US Open, like tennis, people are out there, but the courts were packed that late. I think I remember watching Mira Andreeva and Azarenka, and it was packed out there.
Yeah, no, I mean the French crowd is the people that go are the best. They are the best. They stuck around, they stuck it up, and they make it happen. And they're a great crowd. It's a great tennis culture. It's a great tennis tournament. But you can't adjust the weather,
No,
and
no.
and that was unfortunate. But again, that night session became like one of the great ones. So getting rained out is tough.
Yeah, we got another one last night, but we'll talk about that maybe in a little bit. Moving on to the French fans, because when Nick and I previewed this tournament, I said that was one of my favorite things about the French Open were the French fans, between the trumpets they're playing, they're singing the Marseillaise every 5 minutes. They're just cheering on every single French player till the last possible moment. And even afterwards, they cheer them off court. And for me, I also kind of liked the players who were on the receiving end of that, sort of, not confrontational, but also showing that they're in it as well. I remember my favorite moment from last year was when Taylor Fritz did the shush thing after after his match, after just suffering for so long. What do you think? I mean, you've said a little bit, but what do you think of the French crowd and the atmosphere they create at this tournament?
I love them. I think with regards to Langlon and what can go on in there, it can sometimes get a little acrimonious. I think it can get a little intense. Langlon, though, when a French player plays, is one of the special atmospheres in all of sports. Listen, there's always going to be a few idiots that get a little too mouthy. It seems like that's become de rigueur these days. I hate that. But generally speaking, the crowds are awesome. They're knowledgeable. I love them. I love all the singing. I love that. I can't get and then there's a whole Belgian contingent there that
Yes.
supports the Belgians, and they're cool too. Like, there was and it's funny because there's very little eating and drinking that goes on in the stands culturally. It just doesn't exist. You don't see people like muckling down burgers and chicken fingers and none of that. And you don't see them hammering back honey deuces or Pim's cups. There's very little of that. So, David Goffin, had, said that, he had gotten a little bit tortured by the French crowd when he played this big kid Pericard. And then Amelie Mauresmo and the French Federation banned drinking in the stands. But I think for all intents and purposes, that was a non-issue. The
Mm.
fans are. I love this French crowd. I'd take that French crowd everywhere I could. If I could take them with me everywhere, I'd take them. And that little band is they're like four guys that are on the French's dime, like BNP
Oh,
Paribas.
really?
Yeah, and they bounce around to all the French
Court.
players.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they're cool. They're cool. They're
Oh, that's
nice.
nice.
Yeah,
Oh,
they're never
cool.
out of line. They keep it pretty fun.
Oh, nice. Awesome. Um, wow. So that's like a really great, sort of vision of the tournament. I think it's definitely on my bucket list of a place
No
to
doubt.
visit. It's and hopefully I'll do so one day. But let's get a little bit into the tennis that had happened. What we're into the second week. We just the second week started today. We're recording on Sunday. A few matches have already happened. Some very quick matches happened today.
Yeah, it was wild. What a tragic ticket Chatrier was today. I'm just actually going to pump up what happened. I'm going to see if did Ons beat Towson? Is that done?
I
Let's just
think
see.
yes, it's
Yep, that's
done.
over.
Yeah.
Yeah, so as good as the tournament was, like all the top four seeds are through, and the log jam seems so significant. Now it's like over, right? Like
It's all over.
Tsitsipas beat Arnaldi, Alcaraz routine Ogier Aliassime, Ego won in 10 seconds, and next thing you know, it's like,
What do we do for
well,
4 hours?
so most of the people there have hospitality, so they'll go get the free moet and they'll eat they'll eat as much as they can, because usually you have to figure out eating hospitality, getting your money's worth there, and then getting into the to good matches.
Yeah.
But these matches were terrible. I think that Mute. I'm partial to Mute. He's been on my show.
Oh, great.
He detests the press. But I had an exclusive with him. His story is one of the great stories. Not this past Australian Open, the Australian Open 2023, he snapped the sheath in his off wrist. He's lefty,
Ooh.
and his right wrist, he snapped it. He's played the whole year with a one-handed backhand, stayed in
What?
it, and now Mutet plays center in just a couple hours on Chatrier.
That's going to be the ticket to get.
And then Dimitrov plays Hurkacz tonight. Grigor is also was on my show just a couple weeks ago. I recorded a show with him in Rome, and same thing. That's an exclusive. I would love to see somebody like really some big upset. I
Yes.
think that the first big upset of the tournament, for all intents and purpose, to me was Mute beating Jerry. Jerry came into the tournament humming.
Off of
He was
Rome.
humming,
Yeah.
humming. He was humming, playing very well. And he had a crazy match and lost to Mute in Chile, where he's from, where it was wild. It was like a Davis Cup match. But Mute played Jerry in Simone Mathieu first round, and Jerry couldn't handle the heat. And Mute now has made this run. He spits rhymes. He's a rapper. He's a talented guy. He plays the piano. He's a remarkably sort of mercurial fellow. He hit, I believe, 12 underhanded serves in his last match
Wow.
against Max Marterer, and he won 9 of the points. So he's got
Uh,
this great underhand. I never talk about underhanded serves. He was serving underhanded. That was fun. And then, the women, I think that, it's starting to feel like it's Iga's tournament to lose. Although, man, Coco plays Ons in the
yeah.
quarters and Iga plays Vondrousova in the quarters on that side. And then, Sabalenka plays Navarro. Andreeva plays Gracheva. Gracheva is a great story, but I'm talking too much. Tell me what should I tell you?
Well, I was actually going to ask you two things. First,
Yeah,
what did you think of the Iga Naomi match?
I was actually a guest of the Osaka team when she played first round. She looked sensational in the first set, and I could just tell that she was moving better on clay. You got to keep in mind, Naomi Osaka's been in Europe for she had been in Europe for at least 6 weeks.
Yeah.
She played some small tournaments like early on in the season, and she stayed over there all the way through, which was very unusual. Which, when a player does that, they mean business. I
Yeah.
thought she was moving. I thought she was moving quite well. I think the fact that she didn't get over the finish line has got to be gutting. I don't
Yeah.
care what she says or anyone says. That was, you get those chances come very, very occasionally where the stars line up and you're playing that kind of level. You have to win that match.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she didn't come through. Same thing last night with Talon Greek Sport. But yeah, no,
Ooh,
listen.
that
Iga,
was tough with Greek Spore. Ooh.
another really bad, really bad case of the nerves at the end.
Yeah.
He was up 2 breaks, 4 straight games to go to 5. He was down 4-5. Then he evened it at 5-all. Then it was 5-6, and it was 6-all. Then he got kind of wiped out in the breaker, and that was it. Lights out. But
Yeah.
when you're up
Yeah.
2 breaks, you can't lose that match either.
No. It was those two matches that you just brought up. I've been thinking recently about the mental aspects of tennis and what your mind can do with these matches. And in both cases, I think it was just all in the head because they had the tennis.
Oh yeah, I mean, no, I don't purport to know more about those things than the experts, which is why I have my show.
Yeah.
I ask the players and the coaches I ask them what they think about those things. I don't purport to know, but there's a reason Iga's 1 and Naomi is using a protected ranking, and there's a reason that Talon Greek Sport is 26 and Alexander Zverev is 4,
Yeah.
and it's hard to have the gumption to finish. There's just no doubt about it. Yeah. That said, I'm very enthused and encouraged by Naomi's effort. She said she's just trying to track heavy to have like a really good U.S. Open. So let's see if that holds true.
Yeah, she's entered some smaller tournaments as well on the grass ahead of Wimbledon. So it's exciting to see her kind of do this thing where she's in it and you can just tell she's in it to win it. So that's good. One person I also wanted to talk to you about, I don't know if she's been on your radar, is Emma Navarro and what she's doing.
Awesome. I mean, Emma Navarro, she changed her body and she changed her tennis. She's, again, she's right there. She really stepped up to beat Madison Keys in the last round. She's in the 4th round. She's just about top 20 in the world, I believe. She plays Sabalenka. That might be lights out for her there, but I'm really impressed with Emma Navarro. I've had some light conversations with her dad. He and I happen to be fellow alum. He is probably the most successful University of Rhode Island graduate there is. Frank, and his father was a well-known football coach. Mm-hmm. So Ben Navarro is a Rhode Island Ram, as am I. So I use that as an opportunity to say hello more than a couple times. And lovely family, but she went from being an elite junior and a good college player to someone we never thought was going to be inside of the top 50, 60 to she's playing top 20 tennis. That's kind of fun.
Yeah, no, and this being an Olympic year, I think she is trying to fight to get into that spot. It's going to be tough. She has to win this tournament basically to make it. But she might become an alternate depending on the sort of the injury status of all the others who are in. But she just won her doubles match today. She's playing with Diana Schneider and she took out the number 1 seed in doubles. And I'm just like, wow, Emma Navarro is out here doing things. So
Diana Schneider is cool. She's a lefty from Russia that played college tennis at NC State for one season. She's got a wicked serve. I like her because she reminds me staturely. She's small and she's a little stocky, and she bangs the serve and she bangs the forehand, and she's a really serious competitor. Sweet girl, actually, too.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. So looking ahead, we have some quarterfinalists now. The tournament's been going. I think at the beginning of the tournament, there was this whole sort of like wide open on the men's side anyway. We can start there. Not looking so much now, no?
It's funny. I actually have written in my notes getting ready to talk to you. It says Novak, Zverev, Carlitos, Ruud, Rune, Sinner.
Yeah.
Corentin. Yeah. So all those guys are still alive. Novak essentially came to this tournament with no coach. He's essentially there with like no team. He's like put together his like old team, I guess. It's essentially, he beat Musetti last night. They finished at 3:00 in the morning. Sasha Zverev came off the mat yesterday to beat Talon Griekspoor, who I don't use my Twitter or my X well, but I said, a year ago, I was on court 7 watching Talon Griekspoor play a rough match against Hubert Hurkacz's 5-setter. And I said, this kid is as good of an athlete as anybody on tour. And I stand by that. So Zverev came through a really tough match. Quite often when that happens, the player loosens up, finds his form, and comes through. Carlitos just routined Ogier Aliassime. Casper Ruud, I watched him this past week. I think he looks sensational. Like the heaviness of the weight, the heaviness of his forehand is unbelievable. He's finaled here now. I know did he final here twice?
Twice now. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Holger Rune, same thing. He came off the mat and won he was down 5-love in a super breaker to Flavio Cobolli, the Italian. He won that. And then Yannick Sinner now goes against Mute tonight. I'm going to be curious to see what Sinner's quality looks like. Just a couple of weeks ago, and the same thing, he must have really means business because he didn't play the Italian Open.
Yeah.
And he had more stuff going on at the Italian Open. Like that was a disaster for the Italian Open that Sinner didn't play. He went to Torino, where Juventus, the famous soccer team, he went to go see their doctors to work on his hip. So, Sinner Mute tonight is in Chatrier coming up very shortly. That's going to be
must watch.
That's going to be alive and amplified. That's a serious match. I'm looking forward to that.
Nice. And then on the women's side, on the WTA.
Sorry. Last thing. Stefanos Tsitsipas just played very, very well. I kind of would love to see. I'd love to see Dimitrov, or I don't journalistically I don't cheer for any player, but as a connoisseur, I would love to see like Stefanos or Dimitrov play a final, and to be honest, I'd love to see a guy with a one-handed backhand win the tournament, because I think that'd be fun. But I don't like to drill down on those things, but it would be cool just stylistically for the sport for that to happen.
Yeah, no, Stefanos looked really good this morning. I watched his match against Arnaldi before we started recording. And, there was definitely a scare there in the beginning, but Stefanos is looking really good. Like he tightened up, he buttoned it up, and he was like, I'm winning this. And then he did. So it's a different Tsitsipas that I think we're getting this tournament.
He's awesome. He's awesome on clay. I tell everyone that was willing to listen, I'm like, I love watching Stefanos Tsitsipas play on clay.
Yeah.
He's big. He's so big. Like when you see him in real life, he really looks like a Greek god. Like his shoulders are wide, his waist is small, and the way he moves around the court and plays this dynamic style of tennis on that Terre Battue is sweet.
Oh, I love that. Okay, so WTA, after that epic against Naomi, I was just like, well, I guess Iga Swiatek's going to win, going to win Roland Garros. But who's quietly coming through as well is Coco Gauff. I think a lot of her matches have been, they've been during like other sort of more hyped matches. So she's been flying under the radar very quietly, but she's in the quarterfinals too and is going to play against Ons. What do you think?
I think she'll beat Ons. I think that, it's funny, that qualies week or over the weekend, I can't recall. I it was a Thursday it was the day the draw came out, because there's like this, they call it like l'orangerie. It's like a spot where they do hospitality, but they set it up for the draw ceremony.
Okay.
But when you go down there, the court Simone Mathieu is down there as well. It's in like this botanical garden. And I slid into Simone Mathieu, and Coco was having a private practice with Rybakina. And Rybakina must have won like 15 straight points. Coco was having the worst practice I'd ever saw. In fact, I was like, oh man, if I was the coach, I think I would stop practice. Like, there's no way this is going to be good for her.
Yeah.
And then of course, ever since then, like, she's just like wiped out. I'm just trying to see. She beat, let's just see. So Coco Gauff beat qualifier in the first round, killed her. Then she beat Zidansek 3-4. Then she beat Yastremska, who is no slouch, by 2 breaks and then 1 break. Then she beat Cocciaretto this morning. Like, she beat her 1-2. Just 1-2. Absolutely destroyed her. It's going to be a way different story. I saw Ons kill Sasha Vickery the other day, which was tough to watch, actually. She really blew Vickery's lungs out. She was feeling the ball. I love Ons. I would love Ons to play well here. Tough for me to see Coco losing to Ons, but I think Ons, in light of the trouble she's had all season, this is a productive tournament for her. I hope she competes well. I hope they have a great match.
Yeah, same. Okay, so that is the tournament and the podcast, really. Before we go, Nick and I always do this thing. We have a player of the fortnight. I can go first and pick someone, but I think my player of the fortnight is Zizou Bergs, who is a Belgian player and who broke into the top 100 during this tournament. He had his match, he had this celebration after he broke into the top 100 after the match he won that was just epic. And I think for me, it came right after the issues with David Goffin, and they had they had all these new rules come out, and then the very next day, Zizou won his match and did this epic sort of soccer chant with the crowd. And I thought, well, this is what it is. Like, this is the moment where a player can connect with the fans. And it just was this moment. I'll post the video in our description. But Zizou has had some really great matches over the season. He played against Nadal in Rome and lost, but it was a very competitive match. He sort of put on a good show. And he comes into the French Open and breaks into the top 100. I think it's been something he's been trying to do for a while, and he finally made it. So he's my player of the fortnight this tournament.
I would add to the Zizou Berg story that he has been a highly touted junior, a highly touted Belgian. He's flashy, he's handsome, and he does have that distinction of losing to Rafa in Rome, which is Rafa's last official victory. So, if Rafa does what he says and keeps playing, he'll probably have more victories. But as of right now, Zizou Berg. Zizou he's named after the soccer player Zinedine Zidane. And as you said, he had this like very cool, after he won his match, he led an a cappella chant where he said in Flemish, "Where is the party?" And then all the fans chanted back, "Here is the party." and they did it
Awesome.
3 times, and it was cool. And that kicked off the night session of the century. That's when the whole night went buck wild, and that was cool. So I think Zizou's a great pick. Mine is Varvara Gracheva. Varvara Gracheva is a Russian girl who is this is an interesting story. She's coached by a Frenchman in the south of France called Jean-René Lisnard. Jean-René Lisnard made the top 100. He has an academy, I think, around Nice. And Lisnard finessed her to become a French citizen. So now she plays for France. And she's been, for all intents and purposes, embraced by the French finally. She beat Sakari on Simone Mathieu, which was really the first big upset of the tournament.
Yeah.
Sakari had she was shook. It was tough to watch her lose that, but I was there for that. Gracheva is the real thing. She's playing for France. She plays Mira Andreeva, who is 17 years old and is 26-16, I think, on the year.
Yeah. Mira is definitely having a moment too.
And she's being coached by Conchita Martinez, who just stopped with Muguruza and is now with Mira Andreeva. And Mira Andreeva, put it on as a Rinka. Yeah, Mira Andreeva is the real thing. But for my player of the fortnight, it's Varvara Gracheva. And then as a second, it's Moutet. The 2 French left in the draw, I'm really juiced on. And as I said, I've got a soft spot for Moutet because he's been on my show, and the people that come on my show, I like to see do well.
Yeah.
So those are who my players are.
Awesome. Well, those are 2 great picks. I do love Moutet. I've seen him play a few times, and he's entertaining. It's fun to watch.
He's mercurial, and he's temperamental, and he's wild, and he's unique, and he's not a sheep. He doesn't do what the other players do, and I like all those things about him. Yeah. Sometimes these young mercurial kids remind me a little bit of myself, and I think maybe that's why we love tennis so much, because people gravitate to things they like, or what they they see things in players and whatnot that maybe they can relate to, and we see them all grow up, and we see them fight, and we see them do things that we can't do. And when you go to these side courts and you go deep into the nooks and the crannies of these tournaments, you can uncover these little gems of talent and unique coolness and things like that. So that's what I love.
I can't top that. That's like the best way to end this podcast. Thank you so much, Craig Shapiro, for coming on. I've actually really enjoyed this conversation, and I hope to have you sometime back on the show.
No doubt. I will see you stateside sooner than later.
Yes.